Good afternoon, honorable members. We are ready to resume debate on the motion. I would like to verify the members that I have on my list, because I have so many lists here that I want to be sure that I have the right one. Would you please raise your hand to confirm that you are on the list to speak? I have Zambia. I have Malawi. Is there a member from Malawi who wishes to speak? Okay, Malawi. I have Eswatini.
Can I say, Honorable President, it wasn't Eswatini, it was Lesotho. We happen to be sister kingdoms. So
the Kingdom of Eswatini. Do I have a member? No. I have Zimbabwe. So there is a member. I have Botswana. Okay. So if I verify my list, then I have Malawi, Zimbabwe, and Botswana. And Seychelles, please let me
now
allow me to just revise my list. Then I have Seychelles and South Africa. And I also have, is that another member from South Africa? That's Malawi, yes. Sorry, it's because of the placement where you are. Seychelles, South Africa, Malawi. So that's another member from
Mr.
Malawi.
President, you have omitted Lesotho again. You have omitted Lesotho.
Mr. President,
Order, please. Let's verify the list. I have the DRC. Thank you. Do I have any other members?
Mr. President, with your permission, please, where you had mentioned Eswatini, the hand that was up was Lesotho's hand, and then when you read your revised list, you then excluded Lesotho once again.
Thank you, honorable member. I'm happy to include Lesotho. Okay, so now I have Malawi, Botswana, Zimbabwe, Seychelles, South Africa, Malawi again, 2 members, one on this side and one there, the DRC, and Lesotho. Thank you. Thank you for helping me get this clear. We will proceed with the intervention, and we will call the first member from Malawi. Member from Malawi. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, I would like to register my disappointment with the procedure and the process we are taking as SADC bloc. Mr. President, if we look at our constitution and the regulation as SADC, I don't think there is any procedure which are laid down on which we can base our basis to choose one candidate to present SADC as a bloc. Mr. President, Article 27, Rule 1 of IPU statutes indicate that the members of the Interparliamentary Union may form geopolitical groups where each group shall decide on the working methods that besuit its participation in the activity of the organization, of which, Mr. President, that on this subject we are discussing today hasn't happened. Mr. President, if I also find that the proposed motion for the Assembly to endorse one IPU candidate out of the 3 prospective candidates from the SADC region is irregular and unfair. Why am I saying so? I am saying this because believing as SADC-PF, we were supposed to have our 3 candidates and give them opportunity so that they have the same standing base, not only taking one person and push it for us to endorse. That is not correct, and that is degrading the other member states. Mr. President, I do not believe that we have or had allocated any platform in which we have held other prospective candidates for the Assembly to decide on one candidate as a SADC bloc. I believe the existence of such platform is relevant and crucial as it promotes our oneness as a SADC bloc. I believe that extremely unfair for SADC to propose to endorse the candidacy of one member when candidates from Malawi is not here in Arusha. How does SADC-PF plan to ensure that the candidate from Malawi is held on this matter? And we also want to know, what criteria did you use to come up with one candidate? Is it that their economy is big? Is it that is more educated than others? Is it that they have more money? This has to be put to us to know what criteria did you use to come with that candidate. And it is speculated that there was another meeting when our head of delegation left where you were having meetings. And it's when you came up with the motion which we are debating on today at 10:30, and it's where you indicated the name of the Tanzanian speaker to represent us on IPU. So to me, that seems to be very unfair to the 2 other candidates where they were not presented. Thank you, Mr. President. I submit.
Thank you, honorable member. I am not sure if the member was addressing me in saying you. How did you come up? I would like to point to the member that the motion was brought by a member country and not by me. I had to admit the motion on the basis of the rules of SADC-PF as admissible. Thank you. I will call on the member from Botswana.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, sir. Please allow me to remind this august House that over the past 20 years, IPU chairmanship was exercised and held by prominent members of parliament from the Arab group, that is from Egypt, from 1994 until 1997. Around 1997 up to 1999, the IPU chairmanship still was held by the 12 Arab groups around Spain. From 1999 until 2002, the IPU chairmanship was held by the Asia Pacific group, that is around India and others. Around 2002 up to 2005, the IPU chairmanship was held by the group of Latin America around Chile. It was only from 2008 up to 2011 that SADC sub-region as a group was fortunate enough to have an African leader in the form of our able Namibian president. I think if I'm not wrong, it was Honorable Speaker, yes, Speaker Gingo. 2008 up to 2011. And then 2011 to 2014, it went back. The chairmanship went back to the Arab group, Morocco. From 2014 up to 2017, it went back to Latin America. 2017 to 2020, it went to Portugal. Now, today remains the most glittering opportunity that is coming to our sub-region on a silver platter. And like Simon Peter, who disowned the Lord Jesus Christ 3 times before the cock crew, we take this time to fight amongst ourselves, indirectly aware that we are throwing away our golden opportunity. And I take this time, Mr. President, to pray for cooperation. I take this time to pray for coordination. Over and above, I take this time to pray for cohesion. At her youthful exuberance, a youthful female with a sound and enviable academic background, she is none other than Dr. Tulia Axel. And I pray, Mr. President, I pray to this House to pick on Dr. Axel to be our one and singular candidate at the coming IPU meeting at Luanda over the next 60 days. And this oneness that I'm praying for, Mr. Speaker, this oneness that I'm praying for, Mr. Speaker, has been proved many times. It was a few years ago when members of PAPA, what do you call PAPA in other words, Dr. Saba? Pan-African Parliament. Pan-African Parliament. A delegation of about 6 men came to the Parliament of Botswana and said, here we are with a Zimbabwean candidate in the name of Comrade Charumbira, whom we want as our chair, as our leader at Pan-African Parliament. Botswana by then had a candidate.
Time where the substance or the text of a motion should be questioned and debated when we are already debating the actual motion.
Thank you, Honorable Member. I will rule that the debate is on the motion before the plenary, and that we should address the motion that is on the table before the plenary. Thank you, Honorable Member.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let's carry on hypothetically, but now it's real. Let's look at the hypothetical situation whereby we go with the said motion. There is no consensus, then we move on. We move on to voting. How are we going to be voting? Is it going to be a yes or no, or the other candidates' names are going to be on the ballot paper again? Because I suspect if one were to bring candidate X again when voting comes, it will be claimed to be a spoiled paper. So how is the voting going to be done? Is it going to be a yes or no, or it's open to the other candidates that have already been dropped? The example I'm putting here to you, Mr. President, is it's like we are starting a race. At the starting point, all the other people are on the same line, and there's one candidate that's 2 meters away from the starting point. This is how I'm seeing us arranging this race for the IPU president, where one candidate has already been given some mileage before the start of the race.
May I address you, Honorable Member? The vote will have to be on the motion. It will be to adopt or reject the motion. It will not be to consider other candidates. And I will.
Yes. So
I will say, Honorable Member, the motion before the House was, before the Assembly, was brought by a member in the way it is, and we have proceeded with debate on the motion the way it was tabled. Thank you, Honorable Member.
Thank you very much. Exactly what I feared. This is exactly what I feared, and you have confirmed it, Mr. President. So what has happened? We are an organization that preaches democracy. We can't even practice democracy internally. What has happened to the other candidates? How do they feel? Because they haven't been told why their names have been dropped off, and now we are just voting for. Mr. President, if some of us that are not happy with this procedure had an explanation, if one would spare time to explain to us how the other candidates are not fitting into the voting process, because they've shown interest, and democracy says give them a chance. Where is our democracy, Mr. President?
Honorable member, I would like to ask you to proceed on debating the motion. I have stated that the motion before the plenary was brought by a member in a democratic manner in accordance with the Constitution and the rules of procedure. So this is the motion before the plenary. Thank you.
Mr. President, I 100% agree with you that it was brought by the member, of which member then disowned the motion. He disowned the motion in front of us and said, this is not the motion I brought. I wanted all the candidates to be considered. I'm not putting words. I'm not putting words in the movers.
Mr. President, point of order. Point of order.
Yes, the mover of the motion is still here.
Point of order.
Thank you.
President.
I wish to address honorable member. I think I have given an explanation as to why the motion was altered. I wish that you would proceed on the debate on the motion rather than question the procedure that has brought the motion to the plenary. Thank you. Did I have a point of order?
So let me just wind up, Mr. President.
Thank you. If you will wind up, we will take other points.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I'm winding up, but not with so many unanswered questions. With so many unanswered questions, that leaves a very sour taste in my mouth. Mr. President, as the Secretariat, and maybe the Presidium as well, when you accept these motions, you should accept motions that are not divisive. And my question to you is, if only, and I pray that if only, it's now past tense, you had accepted the motion as originally penned, it wouldn't have created all these divisions, because every one of us here would have a chance to either support their candidate or not support the candidate. But as it is, we are disenfranchised. Some of us are differentiated because our candidates have disappeared from the race without an explanation. I rest my case.
Thank you, Honorable. We will proceed with the debate. I will call on the member for Seychelles.
Thank you, Mr. President. As I support the argument put forward by Honorable Princess Kasune about the decision of ESCO held in Seychelles last May, which at that time we were informed that we would have two candidates, one from Tanzania and one from Malawi, who I understand were two female. At that time, we were not presented with the intention of a third candidate who is a male. Mr. President, having said that, let me go deeper into the argument brought about by the Honorable from Botswana. Over the past 20 years, the presidency of IPU has been drawn from Egypt, Arab group, a male. Spain, 12+ group, a male. India, Asian Pacific group, a female. Chile, group of Latin American and the Caribbean, a male. Italy, 12+ group, a male. Namibia, Africa geopolitical group, a male. Morocco, Arab group, a male. Bangladesh, Asian Pacific group, a male. Mexico, group of Latin American and Caribbean, a female. Portugal, 12+ group, a male. My argument, Mr. President, is may whatever decision taken after the debate be one that does not divide us as a region. And saying so, we should also bear in mind the issue of gender and women advancement. Let me say that as African, we are stronger when we are united rather than stand divided. My wish is that whatever decision we come up with, keep the flame of unity burning and safeguard our commitment. I thank you, Mr. President.
I call on the member from South Africa.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, Chairperson, President of SADC-PF. Chairperson, President, allow me to point out first that yesterday, when this matter was raised by Honorable Bergman, the matter was not in the form of a motion. We were then advised here that in fact we needed to have a substantive motion in order for the matter to be tabled and for the matter to be up for discussion here today. That was done, Honorable President. Later in the day, we were informed that in fact the motion, the manner in which the motion was crafted was such that it would not meet the requirements of a motion. It was inadmissible, something like that. So there was a particular language which should be used in order for us to be able to get the motion through. That matter is a matter which was then dealt with by the Secretariat together with the legal team. And whilst all of that was happening, you will recall, Honorable President, that the speakers had decided, convened by myself, had decided that we should rather engage amongst ourselves and strive to find a consensus to avoid a situation where we come into plenary and discuss these matters, and in the course of that, probably even dividing the House. We did that yesterday lunchtime. We did that after the meeting yesterday, and I am happy to say, to report to the House, that in fact, when we parted, after you left us at the end of the session yesterday, when we parted, when we went to the dinner, we had now reached what is called a consensus around a particular name. However, we did say that in spite of the fact that we had reached a consensus because there had been a fair dialogue amongst ourselves, it will not preclude anyone from availing themselves later on. But the name, and I want to say this, to point this out, because as we were talking amongst ourselves, we had to agree on the terminology. I recall that then we said, okay, it means that we have a position. And that as SADC speakers, we will then go out and lobby and advocate for the name of the Speaker of Tanzania. However, we did say that we have two other names, the name of the Speaker from Malawi and the name of the Speaker from Zimbabwe. But I must also remind honorable members that if you're listening carefully, you will know that the name of the Speaker from Malawi was in fact raised at the meeting in Seychelles. Just as we were rounding up the issue, the honorable member from Malawi did say that Honorable Catherine is also interested and therefore is throwing her hat in the ring, right? So when we parted in Seychelles, we left there with the understanding that, yes, there is this name which we want to lobby for. However, there's express reservations from the delegation of Malawi because their delegate is also interested to be part of the candidates. There was no third name, there were two names. Now, yesterday, we find ourselves in a situation, in fact, in a situation where we now have three names. Fine. By end of yesterday, when we went for dinner, speakers, honorable members, those were honorable. And I think we should be honest enough to confide in this assembly that by the time we parted and went for dinner, we had agreed on the names. However, we did say in agreeing to lobby for this one name, we should agree for purposes of not dividing the SADC. Let's agree that people will not be prevented from lobbying for themselves. That was the decision yesterday evening at around 6, 7 o'clock, Speaker. We then parted, honorable members, having agreed on that name, but having emphasized the importance that we will not block other people if other names are available. Evening, when we came back from the dinner, remember it was very late. And when I got to the hotel, I was informed that, in fact, the legal team, together with the SD and the clerks, I think the secretary of our parliament as well was part of that, had a discussion, because when we parted, we said, okay, this is the issue we are agreeing on. We've reached a consensus on this matter. However, you officials advise us on how we take this matter to the assembly. And we left it to them. And when we came back in the evening, indeed, they had a discussion and they had agreed on how we then bring the matter to the House. And that decision was a motion. Remember that in the course of the discussion during the day, there was a time when I actually said, okay, we've withdrawn the motion to allow for an engagement. But the advice received from the legal team and all of them was that the only way to get this matter here was for us to then move a motion. Hence the motion. And I do want to say that I don't want people to divide the South African delegation. We're not going to be divided on this matter. The motion moved by Honorable Bergman is Bergman's motion as part of the South African delegation. The last thing I would like to say, Speaker, is this. In engaging amongst ourselves, we thought we were exercising leadership. I remember, we were asking ourselves, okay, how do we approach to avoid disunity amongst ourselves? How do we approach the assembly? Do we approach it as speakers talking to your own delegation, or what do we do? Until we got this advice of a motion, which motion South Africa was assisted to draft by the legal team of SADC. Now, We exercised leadership. We persuaded one another. We tried to reach a consensus. And I don't want to say tempers were high. Tempers were not high. I think we were engaging as mature leaders, political leaders, who have all the good intentions to provide guidance to the assembly. That's what happened there yesterday. Now, we are now at a point where somebody says there's an uproar of motions. It's not necessary. It isn't necessary. Today, you don't want me, you don't need me, because you're pushing a particular position. But tomorrow, you need my support in order for me to support you for the position you are canvassing for. That's politics. I do want to say this, to reiterate what Honorable Member Speaker from Botswana raised. You know, it does, when you raise a position that you want to lobby for a particular person, you do not always agree. But at some point, you strive for a consensus for the sake of unity. You want to preserve the unity of the region because we are now contesting against other regions. So I just thought I needed to clarify these issues, that solidarity and unity is needed right now amongst ourselves, and that the fact that the name of Speaker Catherine or Speaker Muden, the fact that not that they are not, they don't qualify, they all qualify, all three candidates qualify, by the way. But there was a decision which was taken right at the beginning that we were proposing the name of Dr. Tulia. And it does not mean that Dr. Tulia is better than any other of the candidates. But we said there are certain characteristics, there are qualities of leadership, which at the time we had agreed we would then motivate for her for those reasons. So I just thought, Speaker, as a person who is leading the South African delegation, it is important for me to clarify some of the matters. I would not want to respond to some of the statements which have been made, but I want to say, Speaker, some of the statements made were unfortunate. There is no country in the African continent which is not poor, which does not have its own economic challenges. And therefore, when issues are raised, it is not about, I don't think South Africa would be the last one, by the way, to say, well, economically, Zimbabwe, because we've been calling for the lifting of sanctions of Zimbabwe for years. So we would be the last one to want to snap Zimbabwe because Zimbabwe has its own challenges. The same applies to Malawi. We would not do that because we come from the liberation movement backgrounds. We are all one. All that we have been trying to do is to make sure that we find one another on the matter. So to say that people are undermining, people are ridiculing others, it's because of their socio-economic positions, I think it is incorrect, and I will not ask anyone to withdraw because I don't think there's a need to withdraw. It's okay, but for the record, I think it is proper that as Speaker, I should say, South Africa would never, I as Speaker, would never allow any of my delegates to make that kind of statement which will imply ridiculing and a dehumanizing statement that seeks to undermine states which have supported us at the worst of times. Thank you very much, Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The next member is Malawi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I was rising on a clarification and to ask that earlier on I had stood on a point of order, and then you had ruled that we're going to go back to the Hansard to hear what the honorable member had said. So I wanted to hear your guidance, Mr. President. How far are we on that, and what time are we going to go through the Hansard? Thank you.
Honorable Member, I don't recall saying that we would go back to the Hansard. I ruled on the point of order, and I gave a ruling on the basis of the rules of procedure. Thank you. Please proceed with your intervention. Thank you. We will move to the next speaker, the next person to address, and I have the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Thank you, Mr. President. As pastor, I would like to draw your attention on a very important issue, which is unity. And this is the unity that is allowing us to work together within the SADC region. We are all in one family, part of one family. And as members of one family, it doesn't mean that there will not be diversion of opinion. Within a family, we can quarrel, but we have to get to a consensus in order to move forward in a free manner. I think that the idea that led us to this end in order to have one candidate, it was a great idea. Is in order to ensure that we are successful at the SADC level. The point was not to divide each and everyone. I know that there are all the people who are gifted when it comes to speak. Sometimes some people will take the floor, and when they are speaking, of course, they are putting people together. Some other people will speak, and it's as if they are dividing. Everybody can also like smile. Some people are gifted, and despite all this, we have to decide and get to a consensus. Unity is the most important. The African people unity is important, and within the SADC region, we have to ensure unity. And if you think this way, the success, the victory of one of these candidates, even if they are 3, 4, 5, will also definitely be our success as well. I am saying this because if we don't want to have one candidate, that also means that we want to have 1,000 candidates for the SADC, and this is going to create a lot of complication. And instead of like going for the 1,000 candidate, I think it's better for us to try and get one candidate. Yesterday it was DR Congo. Today maybe it can be Angola. Tomorrow it can be Zambia, and we keep on moving this way. The basket is trying to move from one person to another one. We are going around, and of course, we should just wait for our turn. When it gets to your turn, then you can get that basket with all your will. But if you don't want this way of moving, it will be a bit difficult. SADC is a family. I would like to reiterate this point, and I would like, as a pastor, to encourage everybody to unite. When you are hurt at your level of leg, of course your head is hurt as well. And so if Malawi is suffering, that means that it's the whole SADC region that is also affected. If Zimbabwe is affected by anything, it's the whole the whole region that is affected. So why should we have to divide among ourselves or be divided? Dear colleagues, if you like, I would like please to ask each and everyone to think that the devil is the one who is trying us, but we need to get to a compromise. It's very easy. We said it before that even if we decide that the influence of SADC decide to choose one, it doesn't mean that other countries will not continue to do their lobbying. Of course, we can continue somewhere else. This is so simple. How can we continue this debate for more than 4 hours, 10 hours, just not to get to a specific point? Please, I'm pleading, dear colleagues, whether you are a male or a woman, we have to forget about our burden, our frustration. Let's just accept this issue, because the fact of accepting does not mean it's weakness. We accept because we want a success. We want to achieve to a point. The success of one member within the SADC region is also our victory. So all of us are going to be happy from that. Even if your friends said word that hurts you, please may you accept it, because at the end of the time they were trying to express their feelings. It doesn't mean that they hate you. So I would like to plead that we continue to try and seek negotiation, to try and continue the lobbying in order for our influence to reach different spheres. The fact of trying to find one candidate is to help the whole SADC to be successful. The success of this candidate is going to be the success of the SADC region. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Thank you, honorable member. I call on the member from Lesotho.
Thank you very much, Honorable President. Two issues that I want to address. The first one is a constantly recurring issue that perhaps this body does not have the procedure that guides its entry into this matter. But my understanding, Mr. President, is that this body is empowered by the rules to appoint its procedure. And that procedure has been appointed, and it happens to be by way of motion. And so the issue of the legality or non-legality of this matter, in my view, is neither here nor there. There are only two options that seem to emanate from that. It is that this body will vote for the motion or reject the motion. And those are the options that are available for it, that are provided in terms of that particular procedure that it has determined to enter into this matter. Second point that I want to make, Mr. President, is that arguably we do have very competent candidates. And I think there should be no harm in this body affirming the competence of those candidates. Where, in my view, the challenge does lie is at the technical and legal level, because the guidelines, IPU guidelines, are very specific in pinpointing two prerequisites to stand for this position. The one is, one has to be a sitting member of parliament. I heard earlier on a colleague say it must be a politician. No, it is very specific. It must be a sitting member of parliament. As at this point in time, quite obviously, all three candidates do meet that requirement. But it is the next requirement that is challenging. That a person who will be appointed must be able to exhaust 3 years in that position, assuming that he or she will still be a sitting member of parliament. In this regard, when I look at the three candidates, the one, without mentioning which, is going to be going into elections in the next few months. So there is an element of uncertainty about whether or not that person will be returned. The other candidate is also going to be going for elections in a year or so. Again, there is an element of uncertainty in that space. Now, what we must recall, honorable members, is that it is not only us, SADC, who are going to have a final word on this matter. It is the other regions that we must bring on board. And when they have to determine that issue, these areas of uncertainty will definitely be exercising their minds. That suggests to me that we do have one candidate, and I've said, and everyone has said, amongst the three competent candidates, the one candidate who appears not to be unpredictable in terms of where she will be in the next 3 years. And it is on that ground, legally speaking, but together taking into consideration the issues that were raised by my colleague from Seychelles, the consideration of the fact that for all of these many years, there have been so few women occupying that position as against the dominance of the position by me. And we need to rise up to the clarion call we have been making in this very forum, that we must affirm our women folk where opportunity does allow, without necessarily downgrading their qualifications. In this case, we are all convinced that the candidates before us do qualify. But on that one issue, additional issue, we should have no reason not to affirm the Speaker of the Tanzanian Parliament. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I have the speaker from Zimbabwe on my list, but I see this, the member from Malawi raised a hand.
Yes.
Is it to address or to?
A point of order, Mr. President.
Yes, okay, I will allow the point of order.
Thank you. I just wanted to put on record to the Prof to say that Malawi is going to election in 2025 in the month of September. So is Tanzania. 2025 in the month of September. So the issue to do with the predictability should not stand. I submit.
Thank
Chair.
you. Thank you for that clarification. I will give the floor to the member from, the speaker from Zimbabwe.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Can you protect me? Some people are speaking too loudly.
Thank you. Let's have order, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, indeed, I want to agree with an excellent summary by the Speaker of South Africa. Just to mention that in my intervention, I did indicate that this matter might escalate to the level of our heads of state and government, the three of them. And if they so decide on one candidate, and I say I'm one of those candidates who may suffer the casualty of that decision, I'll be ready to step down accordingly. So I did indicate that because of the gravity of the situation and the avoidance of any possibility of misunderstanding between the three countries, I think at the level of heads of state and government, it is possible that a resolution be found in the next few weeks, and we'll come up with one candidate who will be supported by SADC-PF. And then on the question of predictability, 2025 will exclude the other two members, that is Speaker of because, and my sister from Tanzania, because the term runs from 2023 to 2026. As for myself, we're having elections in August 23rd. I can assure you that I'm coming back as Speaker.
Thank you. Order, order. Thank you. I have the Honorable Speaker from Tanzania, and I will announce that I will conclude the debate with the intervention of the Speaker from Tanzania, because the Speaker from Malawi, had you raised a hand before? Namibia, excuse me. Okay, I absolutely do not want to exclude any member from expression, but I would like to have a manner of closing the debate. Okay, so the member, is it Malawi? Is it the order, please? I have one member for Malawi or two members from Malawi who wish to speak. One member. Two members, one member from Malawi, one member from Namibia. Okay, so honorable members, we will take these three members and we will close the debate. Thank you. Honorable Speaker Axon from Tanzania, you have the floor.
Just a small thing, Mr. President, about the term of office of 3 years running from 2023 to 2026. The reading of the rules of IPU, which I think they're not to be debated here. I think we'll be debating them at that point. But the rules do not intend to exclude people who are vying for those positions who will have a lesser term. That's not the interpretation of the rules. But also there are precedents in the IPU where people have been president and they stepped down before the term, or they are elected in other forms and they step down. So it's not really something that should be keeping, us from thinking the other way. Now, because you see, I have had to say, because my brother from Zimbabwe is also contesting, so we shouldn't put the House in a situation where we cannot probably decide to support Malawi because Malawi will be going for election. Or we will not be able to support Tanzania because they'll be going for election. So now we are left with Zimbabwe because Zimbabwe's election is close by. That's not the intention of the rules. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. I will give the floor to the member from Malawi.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. Mr. President, I just want to register that I'm the only member from Malawi government who is also an EXCO member. There was an issue that the Right Honorable Speaker from South Africa spoke about the issue that we were discussing in regards in regards of the candidates that have submitted their papers at IPU. So I came in as a member of from Malawi, representing the Speaker, that as Malawi Speaker, she was interested to stand as a candidate for IPU. And after we agreed all that, the committee, they discussed that we are not going to finish the matter till when you're going to meet again, or maybe propose a future meeting so that you discuss as a group and see and map the way forward. But up to date, I haven't heard of anything that has been discussed in regards to that. So I was just worried because we did not reach to the consensus to say, okay, we are endorsing Tanzania or we are endorsing, Zambia wasn't there, but we were only two by then because Zambia wasn't, Zimbabwe wasn't interested then. He didn't show his interest, their interest. So I just wanted to put it on record that we didn't reach to the consensus that we are supporting whichever country. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Member, do you wish to address? Because I have announced closure of the debate. You wish to have a point of order?
Honorable Speaker, I just need an explanation from your seat. I can see a lot of Malawians, members of parliament. But then as we are seated here, I think it's a forum of SADC. But we have about 8, and they're all contributing to the motion. Who is supposed to contribute? No. Please. I just need you to tell me, bring me aware. Who is representing the Malawian? No.
Thank you.
Guide me.
Thank you.
Yes.
Honorable Member,
No.
I will take your point.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Honorable Member, in my capacity as President of this Assembly, I have to give the floor to those members who wish to speak. And if a member has raised a hand and is an accepted member of the delegation, having been registered, I am obliged to accept the contribution of that member. I do not see any other way. Thank you. I will now give the floor to the last person to address, and that is the member from Namibia.
Thank you, President. It's actually a profound privilege to be told you are the last speaker. So, and I hope, with reference to EXCO, I'm also the youngest, the oldest from behind. So in that score, I also say thank you. Be it as it may, I just wanted to narrate 2 or 3 things. My seniors, I put it to you that, and you know, sometimes, sorry to pointing you, but out of respect, the pastors, the Creator has got a way of doing things which we don't understand. When we meet as EXCO in Windhoek, the intention of that EXCO meeting was supposed to end in Windhoek. But due to the congestion of the program, the Honorable President saw it deemed it fit to call another extension of EXCO, this time scheduled to his home country, Seychelles. And then we meet as EXCO before this plenary. When we meet at EXCO before this plenary, we have agreed in the spirit of the Angolan narration that consensus was reached amongst us as SADC countries in Seychelles for the candidature of Dr. Axel. That one, unless we say today we are changing, but let us also sometimes be guided by the conscience. When we meet in Seychelles as input, and it's true, my sister was there, and then my sister raised the issue of the likelihood of her speaker joining the race. So there was one candidate confirmed, and English, help me, supposedly candidate, the likelihood, that was there. Notwithstanding, and I don't know if the Secretariat can help me, I want to recall that the input into that motion was moved by the most relevant, the judge, the advocate, Jacob Francis Mundalizuma Mudenda. If I recall very well, he's the senior who moved that proposal. Now, in the spirit of that, because you see, we can say something and then retract, but we should not say something and make as if it was never said. So when I say this, I was in Seychelles, I cannot say I was in Seychelles and then say I was not in Seychelles. Me, I say I was in Seychelles and I recall. That is the issue. moving forward, we are the legislative authority body of SADC. And I think our heads of states will listen. I don't know, let me speak of my country. There's no way the African that is the head of state called Kengo can have an informed opinion about parliamentary candidature at the expense of not being informed by Kashavivi. There is no way. I think every head of state input to this matter will be served by the person that is so entrusted by that legislative body as a speaker. So that head of state will get input information from his speaker. I agree, Tate Masisi cannot hear from Kashavivi. That one completely. But I say Dr. Kenko will hear from Dr. Kashavivi. So will Dr. Masisi hear from Honorable Triple P. And that is the forum. And this forum relates to those people. So that the decision that is taken here serve as input persuasively to the head of state as a basis of engagement of our legislative forum and the autonomy of the legislature. So that cannot be abandoned to any other. That responsibility is ours. And therefore we sit here, we conclude. 2, consensus means we agree to disagree, but form a uniformity or we reach simple majority. That is the issue. The pastor has also spoken. We can speak 12 days, we can speak. This issue did not serve here. And I think the Honorable Speaker of South Africa also narrated. From Seychelles up to here, up to where the issue became technical. We are not lawyers. I think the husband laughed at me when I said we are bush lawyers. Because we might take a decision outside as heads of delegation and so then be challenged with the technicality of the emanation. As we hear today about the motion, yesterday it was agreed, let's bring the thing as a motion, tomorrow, let's do this. Then the same plenary that was saying, let's bring the motion. It's the same plenary that's saying this motion's voting and whatever. We are becoming too technical and sometimes confusing. The intention is to come with a candidate. I think that was the motion. How it's written, it will always differ. I look different from Senso. Senso looks different from Bergman. Bergman so look different from the other brother from Tanzania. So we'll always have different of kind. But the objective is what we want to achieve. That is it. Is it there? It's there. Now, the motion that has been tabled is duly tabled in terms of the rules. Whether it's 32, 29, whatever, those who memorize the rules come with it. The motion is duly nominated. The motion calls for our support for a single candidature in this case. And that's why, in this case, it is in the name of to support the candidature of Dr. Axel. Now, so when we go, it will be say, Your Excellency the Speaker, is the motion being adopted or is the motion not adopted? Not to say you are voting for Axon, Dr. Axon, sorry, Honorable Axon, or not. That is not the issue. The issue is the motion, is it to be adopted or is it not to be adopted? So, Honorable Chair, with this short story, I place it upon you to say, Africans, we have talked, we have listened, others are smart, others are not so smart, but the bottom line is, let us make a decision so as to move forward from here.
Thank you, Honorable Member. With the conclusion of debate, I would ask the Honorable Mover of the motion, Honorable Speaker from Zimbabwe. We have concluded on the debate. Do you wish to make a point of order? Or?
No, just clarification.
A point of clarification is
Yes.
permissible, yes.
Thank you. I want to applaud my youngster there, my son. Is he from Namibia, is it? Yes, yes, from Namibia, for summarizing the issues. Safe to say that he had a small lapse of memory. What I said in Seychelles was, and it was beamed on the screen, should there be any other contestant against Honorable Dr. Atson, SADC should support that person. It was a qualified statement. So I just want to clear, not that I moved the motion, no. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I will call on the mover of the motion to respond to the debate.
Thank you, Speaker. I think basically what we've heard today is, I think, was a very spirited conversation. And I do believe that we have come to what my speaker, and as the Reverend says, it's not my speaker, it's the SADC. SADC gets to claim out the speakers. The truth is that my reputation doesn't start yesterday, or it doesn't start today with the presenting of a motion. My reputation starts with 20 years of politics. So whether I travel to any country in Africa and I fight for any country in Africa, and as the speaker said, I'm one of the first people to fight for the lifting of sanctions in Zimbabwe, I will never degrade a country. I will never degrade any of my African countries. I'll never degrade any of my African brothers. I'll never degrade any of my African sisters. I share the spirit of Ubuntu, and I can assure you that one of my greatest highlights of SADC has been to travel the length and breadth of Africa. So for me, as I say, this must always be about playing the ball and not the player, because I promise you, my record will speak for itself, and you'll see my record. So when we talk about what the speaker has said, and I think she's put it very, very cleverly and clearly, the motion you see, or the motion that was read before you, just to clarify, this is the motion. The motion is exactly as I read it. The motion is signed by me, and the motion is seconded by Angola. But what we have said is the build-up to that motion, which started yesterday, was not this motion. It started as an open, collaborative draft motion, which never wanted to name one person or be prescriptive or do anything of the sort. However, by the time it got from draft to draft to draft, by the time it got to the submission of the motion, after all the rules, procedures, and being told what we're allowed to do and not allowed to do, you're now seeing the product of what we were only allowed to submit. So please do understand that. Now, for me, we got to understand that leadership is not easy. It's about taking a stand. It's about representing the people who elected you. It's not always going to be plain sailing. You know, in the financial markets, when the market is going straight and flat, you're not going to make money. It's the same as when your country's fiscal growth is flat, you're not going to make money. So in SADC, when we just agree with everyone and we just nod and we just shake our heads, or we go to sleep when our brothers and sisters are talking and we don't listen, or we don't partake in active debate to change or to make things better, we're just going to get that flat line, which is almost like a heartbeat. What we need to do is challenge. We need to challenge each other. We need to make this a better organization. We need to always try to do better. And it's debates like this that bring us to do better. It's debates like this that bring countries around the table, that bring speakers around the table, that bring heads of state around the table to talk the issues. And as three speakers have said, Today might be Zimbabwe that we're trying to lobby for, or today might be Tanzania that we lobby for. But I promise you there'll be favors for next year's, where we need my brother in Malawi, where I need his support to lobby for me to be so-and-so for president or vice president. I'm the only one that can boast that I've got the president of Seychelles to lobby for me to become the vice chairperson of a committee, and I'm from an opposition party. So these are the kind of things that can happen in such a beautiful organization like SADC, is that if we don't accept the flat line, if we start creating heartbeats and we don't just accept normal, I promise you, we can reach for the sky. So we stood our ground, SA. I think South Africa, at Seychelles, we nominated a candidate. We went with the candidate as we were told to do. But I do want us to hear and heed the call of the speaker and my sister from Seychelles. First of all, who we nominate here today never precludes anyone from putting their name forward on their own campaign. What it does do is that it helps us in SADC send our resources somewhere. But if you look, we talk about gender parity, and if you look, I was counting as Honorable Esperado was calling out numbers, 8 male presidents to 2 female presidents in 20 years. That is a horrible number. And here's an opportunity for us to create that heartbeat in the RPU. Here's an opportunity for SADC to create its own presence in the RPU. And I must just tell you that Advocate Mudende has represented SADC in the RPU very well. He has done a great job for us. He has always come back and reported to us. He has really, really represented us. And you would have seen him and I shared a very friendly word outside. I have the utmost respect for the advocate. I need his help in the library project. I believe he's going to be a big player in the library project. This is about bringing in as many people and not leaving people outside the door. Ladies and gentlemen, let's be better. Let's be let's be African. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member, mover of the motion. I now put the motion by Honourable Darren Bergman from SADC-PF, for SADC-PF, to support the candidature of Honourable Tulia Jackson, Speaker of the Parliament of the United Republic of Tanzania, for the position of IPU President, be adopted. Are there any objections? If there are no objections, we declare that the motion is duly adopted. Therefore, the motion for SADC-PF to support the candidature of Dr. Tulia Jackson, Speaker of the Parliament of the United Republic of Tanzania, for the position of IPU President is duly adopted. Thank you. Honourable members, we have only one item left on the order paper for this plenary. Order. I cannot refuse the member a point of order. If you will state it, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Francis Peso from Malawi. I would like to seek your guidance. Now that this plenary assembly has duly adopted the motion with a particular name, what will happen to the other candidates, in this case Malawi and Zimbabwe, in the event that they felt that their rights has been violated, and they still want to contest? What will happen? I would like to seek your guidance.
Thank you. I believe from the IPU rules, any qualified member is able to present a nomination for the IPU presidency. So I believe that the two candidates may continue to do that. Thank you. Honorable members, I was saying that we have only one item left on the order paper, and that is closing remarks by the President. So with your indulgence, I would like to proceed with the closing remarks, although this was tabled for tomorrow morning. I think it would be in the interests of members to terminate the business today and avoid us meeting for just a brief session tomorrow for the closing remarks. So with your patience, I will now give my closing remarks. Thank you, members. Our host, Dr. Tulia Ackson, Speaker of the Parliament of the United Republic of Tanzania, honorable speakers and heads of delegation, honorable members of SADC member parliaments, distinguished observers, and ladies and gentlemen. From the outset, let me state unequivocally that I am extremely satisfied that we have had a successful 53rd Plenary Assembly session here in this great city of Arusha in the United Republic of Tanzania. Over these 4 days, we have engaged as people's representatives on various issues of vital importance to our region and have made strides towards finding solutions to some of the most vexing regional challenges of our time. As honorable members are aware, in its efforts towards the furtherance of regional integration, cooperation and diplomacy, the Forum seeks to harmonize the national interests of individual SADC member states with the collective interests of the region. In this regard, the 53rd Plenary Assembly has served as a platform for us, the parliamentarians of the SADC region, to be the voice of the SADC citizens whom we are privileged to represent. Honorable members, distinguished guests, you will recall that the 53rd Plenary Assembly has been held under the theme Modernizing Agriculture to address food insecurity and youth unemployment in the SADC region, role of the parliaments. Allow me to say that the theme of this plenary assembly is particularly relevant given the prevailing dire situation of food insecurity at this juncture that Tanzania has scored a historical first by giving us the first ever female head of state to grace the opening of a plenary assembly session in the history of the forum. I know that I speak for all when I say Her Excellency Dr. Hassan was inspirational when she addressed us during the opening session, raising many pertinent issues, including the significance of the agricultural sector in terms of employment creation. In this regard, Her Excellency informed us that Tanzania is taking deliberate measures and has developed specific strategies aimed at attracting the youth into the agricultural sector. In this respect, through one such strategy, known as Building a Better Tomorrow, the government of the United Republic of Tanzania has been actively facilitating access to land, financial and technological support, market opportunities, and capacity enhancement for young people. Over 800 young people have since been enrolled under the first phase of the initiative and are currently undergoing training. During this training, these young people are being exposed to hands-on experience under an incubation program, after which they will be facilitated to commence production under a block farming scheme. This initiative is expected to contribute about 10% growth to the agriculture sector in Tanzania and to create 1.5 million direct employment opportunities for the youth. Her Excellency, the President Suluhu Hassan, further explained that in conformity with the 2004 Dar es Salaam Declaration on Agriculture and Food Security, the government of Tanzania has been progressively increasing its budgetary allocation to the agriculture sector and currently has increased the allocation fourfold. The key areas of focus in the agriculture sector are irrigation and extension services. She highlighted the paradox that over 51 million of SADC's population is food insecure, yet the continent has 9.85 million square kilometers of arable land, which, if well utilized, has the potential to make the SADC region a food basket for the African continent. Honorable members will also recall Her Excellency's comments calling for the continuation of the war against gender inequality so as to ensure full representation of women in decision-making positions. She stressed that even though there is still need for more advocacy, there is hope based on the progress made so far, which has enabled her as a woman to ascend to the highest office in her homeland. She further assured the Plenary Assembly that her government would continue to take affirmative action and was committed to domesticating the SADC model laws. It is gratifying to know that our heads of state, as represented by Her Excellency, Dr. Hassan, recognize and are in support of the work that we do as parliamentarians of the SADC region in promoting regional integration and a better life for our people. Honorable members, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, during the opening session, we also had a statement by the chairperson of the Regional Women's Parliamentary Caucus, in which she reminded us that despite global efforts, women continue to face discrimination and remain significantly underrepresented in politics and decision-making roles. She indicated that there is evidence that the world is not yet on track to achieve gender equality by 2030. Given these concerns, you will agree with me that the role of the SADC parliamentarians is even more critical, and it is incumbent upon the forum to use its model lawmaking function to set standards for gender equality in the region. During the symposium on the theme, the delegates received representation from the I believe honorable members, it is clearly evident during the symposium was the fact that the SADC-PF remains relevant in spearheading capacity building for members of parliament, staff of SADC-PF, member parliaments, and indeed other stakeholders, in order to promote regional integration through parliamentary excellence. I believe I speak for all of us when I say it was fortifying to realize that our ideals, hopes, and aspirations as a region are underpinned by a long history of parliamentary involvement in the affairs of SADC, and that the role of the forum therefore remains relevant. The 53rd Plenary Assembly also adopted 2 reports of the Executive Committee, one on policy and administrative matters, and the other on financial matters, also known as the Treasurer's Report. The reports dealt with a multiplicity of policy, administrative, and financial matters of the Forum, including the transformation of the Forum into a SADC regional parliament, and the registration of the SADC Parliamentary Forum and its successors trust, among others. Honorable members will recall that approval has already been granted by the heads of state and government for the transformation to proceed. It therefore remains incumbent upon all members of the Forum of SADC-PF to continue canvassing at domestic level to ensure that the necessary signatures are appended to the agreement amending the SADC Treaty, so that the final stages of the transformation can be concluded. Also, I believe all delegates are cheered by the news that the SADC Parliamentary Forum and its Successors Trust was successfully registered in May 2023. Given this development, it is now time for us to move with dispatch on the issue of resource mobilization for our organization, using this special purpose vehicle with the overarching objective of strengthening parliamentary engagement at regional level. Furthermore, the 53rd Plenary Assembly received country reports detailing progress made on the implementation of the resolutions of the 52nd Plenary Assembly. It was gratifying to note the efforts being made by the various parliaments towards ensuring that the resolutions are addressed at national level. Additionally, pursuant to Rule 45 of the Rules of Procedure, the 53rd Plenary Assembly received and noted a statement from Honorable Advocate Jacob Francis Nwadam Milimilo Mudenda, Speaker of the National Assembly of Zimbabwe, on the decision of the 146th IPU Assembly, which was held in Manama, Bahrain in March 2023. Honorable members and distinguished guests, the 53rd Plenary Assembly also considered reports from the Forum's standing committees. The reports contain critical information and recommendations on a plethora of topics ranging from the debt ceiling in SADC member states, hunger and food insecurity, how to attract the youth to invest in agriculture, rights-based approach to the conduct of business within the natural resources sector, gender and climate justice, sexual and reproductive health and rights vis-à-vis climate change and emergency situations. Other themes deliberated on were the utilization of electoral system design to achieve inclusive governance, specifically the participation of women, youth, and minority groups, political financing regulation, and legislating for strategic and sensitive assets while encouraging direct investments. The 53rd Plenary has also considered progress being made towards the domestication of the various model laws that the Forum has developed, based on the deliberations of the standing committees. You will agree with me that our deliberations on the committee reports have not only been robust, but also insightful, relevant, and exciting, as the reports have dealt with a myriad of issues cutting across the entire spectrum of the whole thematic areas covered by the standing committees. Most importantly, the issues traversed by our committees are of cardinal importance to the livelihoods and well-being of the people we are sworn to represent as parliamentarians. It therefore remains for us to follow up on implementation of the resolutions of this plenary assembly in order for them to have an impact on the lives of our citizens. As I conclude, I once again thank the Parliament of the United Republic of Tanzania, and in a very special way to congratulate our dear sister, the Speaker of the Parliament of the United Republic of Tanzania, Dr. Honorable Tulia Ackson, for the splendid work done by her team in ensuring that we have a seamless 53rd Plenary Assembly. Delegates to this Plenary Assembly have enjoyed an excellent facilitation from the Honorable Speaker, the clerk, and staff of the Parliament of Tanzania. It is clear that a lot of work was put into the preparatory process for this plenary assembly, and we are very grateful. The selection of this excellent location, Arusha, as a venue for the plenary assembly has also served to remind us, if indeed it was necessary, that our region generally, and Tanzania in particular, is richly endowed with amazing natural resources which we can and must harness for the benefit of our citizens. Honorable Speaker, Dr. Tulia Ackson, above all of this, it would be remiss of me not to mention the warm hospitality that we have all enjoyed every day that we have been here, especially from you, our hosts, and also from the people of Arusha in general. Being here in the land of Kilimanjaro as your guest has indeed been a special experience, and we all now understand why Arusha is the safari capital of Tanzania. As we come to the end of our stay in this beautiful garden city, we find ourselves wishing that we could stay just a bit longer to continue enjoying the exceptional hospitality and experiencing the many natural wonders that are located in this part of our region. Sadly, we are compelled to leave. However, this is not the end, and I am sure that I am not the only one among the delegates here who is resolved to return to Arusha on a private visit in the near future. Let me thank all members in attendance at this plenary assembly. Thank you, honorable members, for your active participation in the deliberations. I also thank the Secretary General and her team for their dedication, consistent commitment to duty, and hard work, which has been evident throughout the 53rd Plenary Assembly and has ensured that all was in place for the meetings. I further want to place on record my thanks to all accompanying staff from Southern Member Parliaments who have supported the members and enabled their effective participation in this plenary assembly. Let me not forget to thank the men and women in the booths who ensure that, despite our language differences, through interpretation, we can still understand and follow each other. Also, thank you to the management and staff. Also, thank you to the management and staff of Grand Melia Hotel and all the hotels where our delegates have stayed for the duration of the 53rd Plenary Assembly. For their excellent facilitation. I know that we have come to the end of our plenary assembly, but we still have a few moments, a few hours left for our stay in Arusha, Tanzania, and I hope that we will all enjoy the atmosphere and the reception that we have received from the beginning and that we will continue to receive to the day we depart this city. Let me simply say to all who dedicated time to prepare for this plenary assembly that the forum recognizes your important contributions and efforts. Asante sana, obrigado, merci beaucoup, thank you very much. I now declare the 53rd Plenary Assembly closed, and I thank you.
Speaker,
members,
today is Malawi Independence Day, and we should congratulate them.
Thank you. I believe it is Independence Day for Tanzania and for Malawi.
Sorry, Mr. President, it's only Malawi, but the Malawi delegation had mentioned the president of Tanzania because she has gone there to support her brother.
Thank you. Honorable members, I thank you for your participation, and we will now rise to adjourn as the close of this plenary assembly.
Come and make announcements tomorrow.
Thank you. Members, I believe the clerks may wish to make announcements for tomorrow, so I will please give them the podium. If there are announcements. Yeah. The Clerk of the National Assembly of Tanzania, do you have announcements for tomorrow? Okay, in that case, can we say that announcements will be communicated to the participants, if there are any? Thank you.